Welcome to Solutionary TV. I am your host, Dr. Tatiana, and this is the place where you get to come and join us. All of you ardent supporters, viewers, listeners, we are grateful for you. We wouldn't be a show without you. This is where you get to come to hear about things that you don't typically hear about in the mainstream media. There are fascinating things going on right now. If you're paying any attention to topics along the lines of transhumanism and ascension and disclosure, and so many aspects of advanced technology, things that are being relayed to us that are almost, we're being baited with, major disclosure about life outside of this planet, maybe within our own solar system, certainly further out, and what we have known, what we haven't known, what we've suspected. Well, tonight is no different. We have two amazing guests. I am really excited to have Dr. Raymond Keller back with us. He joined us just a few weeks ago, and in addition to Dr. Raymond Keller, we have Jenessee Roy, and they happen to be collaborating on a book, so it could not have been a more perfect marriage to have both of them with us tonight. Let me just remind you a little bit about our fabulous guest's expertise. We'll start with Dr. Keller. Dr. Keller is a retired history professor. He has lived and worked in 44 different countries. He's been writing about UFOs and paranormal activity since 1967. He's been the founder and the director of the Outer Space International Research and Investigation Society, also known as OSIRIS. He has been a co-editor of the New Millennial Star. He has 3 wonderful books and is working, as I said, on a third and co-writing a fourth, Venus Rising, Final Countdown, Rockets to Venus, and Cosmic Rays, Excellent Venus Adventure. And we have with us also Jenessee Roy. She's a clairvoyant. She's a director of a spa and wellness in Walden. It's a 5-diamond, 4-star wellness resort. She's a yoga teacher, a trainer, an author. She's a double, triple threat, isn't she? Artist, energetic field and chakra intuitive. She is also the published author of 12 Planets, 11 Bodies, and 1 Soul, that is also being nuanced and co-written with Cosmic Ray, Dr. Raymond Keller himself. I want to welcome both of you. This is an exciting night to have you both. Thank you so much for joining us, Jenessee and Raymond.
Thank you, Tatiana. It's a privilege.
Well, it's my privilege. Jenessee, tell us about how we got fortunate enough to have you connected with Dr. Raymond Keller. Our guests already know a little bit about him. We spent an entire hour. Let's talk about how the two of you connected and kind of go forward from there.
Yeah, I met Cosmic Ray in West Virginia, his home state, and we were at an expo together. And coincidence, it was not. It was synchronicity. There was an incident at this expo where somebody was having a bit of a problem. And so Cosmic Ray's table got moved right next to my table. And the amazing thing about Dr. Keller is that the entire expo floor, every single exhibitor at the expo slowly and surely made their way to Cosmic Ray's table and sat down with him and talked for 15 to 20 to 30 minutes. And so I had the pleasure to sit next to him, and I would scoot my chair closer and closer and listen to these people talking to Cosmic Ray to see what he was saying and engaging in. And the really amazing thing to me was he was talking about stories about Venusians and people from Orion and different experiential encounters that he's had or he's written about or been privy to. And when this was all happening, I was listening to him, and I had just finished writing my book, 12 Planets, 11 Bodies, 1 Soul, and had so many questions about the different extraterrestrials, if you want to call that I was meeting, the different planetary systems I was visiting. through astral travel and remote viewing. And I was hearing some of these stories that he was telling other people, and they were paralleling mine so closely that by the end of the second day of the expo, it was just Ray and I sitting talking together. I think the whole expo time that second day, and we were comparing stories, and it was just a fabulous validation for me to be able to meet Ray and him to be able to, of course, give some more clarity on the experiences that I had had. And so after that, I basically gifted him my book and said, put your magic on it, do what you do to this, and take it and go. And so we became really good friends ever since.
That is a great story of what I considered to be divine timing, right? Divine alignment, Jenessee. You knew that you were meant to maybe kind of have this soul re-encounter in this life and be able to share some of your mutual stories, which sound like they've been very, very validating, cross-validating, yes?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you go on an astral adventure and it's so singular and it's very hard to get validation from usually your typical circles. And I have some pretty big circles. And so to have that was just such a blessing.
Let's talk a little bit about your book, and because the book that you gave him, I'm assuming, is 12 Planets, 11 Bodies, One Soul. Is that correct, Jenessee?
Correct, yes.
Oh, okay. And it is in the process of being rewritten, and he is going to be kind of ghostwriting, merging some of his brilliant notative talents with your writing style and your history. Easy Journey to 12 Planets, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So Raymond, tell us a little bit about when Jenessee handed you this book, where you immediately could see that you had some reference points around what we consider to be highly, highly evolved and intelligent life here in our immediate solar system, and where your contributions would marry in really well with enhancing this book. This is exciting.
Yes, I worked with Gabriel Green of Amalgamated Flying Saucer Clubs of America in the 60s and 70s. He was one of the pioneer ufologists and contactees. And I have a lot of material from him and also from Gray Barker of the Saucerian Press that I exchanged copies of the Flying Saucer Report with. And there's still a Ray Keller file over in the Gray Barker collection. But I noticed some similarities to some of the material I was researching and working with concerning a young lady that was born in Philadelphia in 1902 and was one of the early contactees. And I was just blown away by it. And as I was working on this text, I found a parallel text with Jennessee's work, and felt that these should be put together as a type of series.
Oh, it's going to be a series then. That's really much more in depth and evolved, isn't it, Raymond?
Oh, yes.
So I'm excited to have Jenessee talk a little bit about this. It's a very compelling title. And I know, Jenessee, that you've done a lot with astral travel and a lot of lucidity in what I guess you would refer to as embodying your soul timeline, which is a very important aspect of our spiritual development. I kind of want to hand the mic over to you. Let's talk a little bit about what that soul timeline means and how you've utilized it in bringing together this rich content for your book.
Yes. So my mind goes like this when you ask me soul timeline. So I'm in the belief system that we're all living in different planes of existence. And as we become more clear on our authentic self and who we are authentically, we begin to be able to, almost as if this channel within us is a ladder, we begin to be able to climb the ladder and have more perspective on not only what this soul vibration, this human vibration timeline looks like and what our purpose is here as a human. Mm-hmm. But as we can clear that channel from physical, emotional, mental, even into the unity plane in the causal body, our multidimensional self, then we begin to actually see our cosmic self, our cosmic timelines, and all that we have been throughout all space and time. that is basically collaborating together to bring this one consciousness here in existence to being. And so, if that's not a mouthful, right? And so
it's a pretty enormous, expansive meta concept, though, isn't it? And
Very.
Science is giving us a lot of validation on that right now with the parallel universes and the understanding of dimensionality. So you're highly supported by science at this point, Jenessee, but I don't know that when your book came out that was true.
Yeah, well, so 2015 is when this happened for me. This all happened within the span of one day, and I kept astral traveling. It started out remote viewing. I couldn't hold the frequency long enough, and so are we familiar? Do you discuss remote viewing and astral traveling?
There is nothing you can't say. I think to our viewers at this point, we've done a really good job of laying the groundwork. So yes, go right ahead and go into your personal experience of that.
Yeah. So as I basically within this day, I started being taken out of my body, and I had done this before. I had done lots of astral travel, but not in this cosmic awareness state. I've done it with guides and masters, or whatever you want to call this, the energy that surrounds us. And so this was completely different. I would move through what you can only describe as the Star Trek warp speed is what would happen. It felt very clairvoyant behind closed eyes. This happened. And then I was in a reality that I had complete access over. And every time I would be put into this wormhole, space travel, shooting white light tunnel, it was like a roller coaster. And the first time it happened, I knew, it would be like an up, down, left turn, right turn, up, drop, plummet. And then basically I'd have an experience on a Pleiadian planet or something within the Pleiades. And then unbeknownst to me at that time, this was later found out, during this 124-hour cycle, I had 12 different experiences where I would be taken out of my body and then come back to my body on Earth. And the book has a lot of this interchange of all of the confusion, stress, everything, the integration phase when I'd come back to my body and not really know what was happening or had been happening. But throughout that day, it became a lot easier to hold the understanding and multidimensional experience that I was being able to tap into.
So just if I can just kind of segue to help our viewers, our listeners, maybe to grasp this a little bit more, we understand that what I fondly use the term running the grid. We think about the universe as many different pinpoints of coordinates, vibrational frequency addresses, right? So in essence, you went and met as a very conscious soul, projecting out of this body, astral travel. We know this has been done in the military. We know that there have been projects. This has been scientifically validated again and again. Technically, you projected to this point of coordinates or this resonant frequency and met 12 versions of yourself that are living in other timelines or other dimensionalities, other frequencies, and then came back with that information and integrated them into part of who is Jenessee. Is that maybe a good way to summate that?
That is 110% the perfect way. Yes.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So let's just do some cross correlation. Raymond, how did her story and maybe some of the lifetimes that you had some background or some data, intel, and expertise in, how did you find that your personal experience and your testimony was able to corroborate some of Jennessee's material?
Well, I found that with most UFO experiencers that when they begin to have visions and recollections of past lives on other planets, this is indicative of an initiatory experience preparing them for ascension to the next to the next level. That they've gone through about 12 or 13 incarnations on the earth plane, and they are ready to move on. But in their last incarnation, they are called to be a teacher and to help bring light and illumination to the world what I really like about Jenessee is that she embodies the principle taught by the Buddhist monk Milarepa, Tibetan monk, Tibetan Buddhist, who said it's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. And I know that Eleanor Roosevelt was also uh, uh, prone to quote that statement as well. But that specifically encapsulates everything that I see in beautiful Jenessee. I call her Lady Jen, and
Well earned.
so so she'll be right there at home at Mount Shasta when we assemble for the From Venus with Love World Conference.
Yes, and I'm thrilled that I get to actually meet face to face both of you there. I feel like this is an apex event. If there are any of those that are listening, and I know it's a great deal of our audience that are paying attention to what's going on in the less than mainstream news, I kind of call us, the authentic underground. We're the underground intel. There's so many different independent news media stations similar to this, internet, YouTubers, BitChute. There's a lot of awareness that we are going through something profound, that we are experiencing a change of ages. We've talked about it on past shows. We know we're in the great year. We understand there's a concept that it is a cosmic event that we go through perhaps every 26,000 years, and there's an opportunity for ascension. I would love to talk in both of your experience about the lives that are relevant, or the incarnations, the expressions of timelines that you're living that are contributing to this momentous time in human history. Jenessee, do you want to start off with that? I'm sure you've got some really exciting information for our viewers that are really hungry for this topic right now about ascension and evolution.
Yes. So the very interesting thing is, after an experience like I had, I really, so the whole experience for me was to basically reconcile all of my timelines into this one conscious person that's here sitting as Jenessee. And right after the book was written, I actually was desperately encouraged by energy, whatever you want to call it, surrounding me, to go to not Mount Shasta, that was later in the trip, Sedona. And so I had no clue what was waiting. And I just knew I had to take this trip to Sedona. So I went, I found a Sedona tour guide who knew all the vortexes, and I basically scheduled 3 days to have him take me around. And so this entire experience, I had no clue. I thought I was going there to finish editing the book. And as I went there and started experiencing the energy of the vortexes, I towards the end of the trip started having experience after experience. And it was this grand finale in a sound bath journey that the guide, Akal, had given to me. And the whole hour of this sound bath experience were the different planetary timelines that I had visited. The different guides had come back to me and told me that I needed to go visit these 5 places on the Earth: Sedona, Mount Shasta, the Great Lakes, Canada and Ohio, Crystal Mountain in Arkansas, and Serpent's Mound here in beautiful Ohio. And they had told me that I needed to go to each of these places and start gridding, doing the earth gridding. And this divine team that was really, in essence, me, just in different time space, was going to be supporting me. I had no clue what I needed to do. I just knew I had to get to these places and everything would unfold. And so I started this journey, and it actually started with Sedona. They had told me to go back to every single vortex that I had already visited and grid with stones that I had just happened to bring with me. And as I did, I had amazing experience after amazing experience. And so that one specifically was a planet from the Orion system, where there were half animal, half human people. And the whole concept of this planet was that there was sacred ritual between the consciousness of an animal when it was an individual self, and then the consciousnesses of a human when it was its individual self. And there was this union ceremony that would happen on this planet where the two beings would choose to no longer go their separate ways, but to unite in a holy ceremony that then actually turned their physicality into one being. And it gave the unique gifts and talents and blessings of each soul vibration, animal and human, and merged it into one. And they had me experiencing through this hawk human entity, all of the amazing gifts and talents and powers and just the majesty that these entities had. And they told me that this was one of the original concepts for the seeding of animals and humans on Earth. And I'll just digress for a minute, because every planet I visited claimed that they were the ones who seeded Earth. So there's a bit of a funny kind of humor to all of it.
A little tug of war going on there, huh, Jenessee?
Yeah, a beautiful love war, right? Yeah, and so that was one of their the goals of animals and humans, and it's interesting that one of the consciousnesses here on Earth that we closely align to are the animals, and how in ancient Native American culture, how they would basically adorn themselves in beautiful hawk feathers and beaks and paint their bodies. And I was told energetically that the early humans did this to start to be in the energy, and they would imprint their blueprint with the energy of these animals that they were adorning themselves with. And so it was a really beautiful way to really bring those energies into unison when the humans here didn't have the ability, the frequency, right, or whatever was happening on that planet in the Orion system, to be able to merge as one. But what a way to imprint that on your blueprint, and to be able to take on those gifts and talents of Hawk, and what Hawk stands for. And so that's just one of them.
Wow.
That was Sedona. And so it was really fantastic. It's just been a beautiful experience.
Now, was that particular experience part of what created some cross-validation and the camaraderie that you built with Cosmic Ray? I guess, Raymond, you could answer that question. Where did you see the correlations in some of your really deeply and well-researched, as well as your own personal experiences, data around being a contactee and maybe life on other spheres?
Oh yes. Well, even on the Earth, it's very presumptuous to assume that we're the only intelligent form of life. As Helena Blavatsky taught us, the co-founder of the Theosophical movement, that the whole universe is permeated with intelligence. And we see in the just in the eyes of an ant or a bee, a very highly evolved intelligence right here on the Earth. And when we go look at mythology, we see all of the gods and goddesses of the ancient world had familiars or companions in the animal or insect world.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Lady Venus had doves and bees. Athena had the owl. Diana had the bear, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And this is likewise on other planets in the cosmic evolution of other spheres in the pleroma and beyond, even beyond our solar system. The variety of life that exists in outer space is just mind-boggling and infinite, and in its extent and its capacity.
I kind of want to talk to that, because just really bringing it down a notch from anything too heavily philosophical. Just the basic common sense. So many of us accept what we've been told, because that's what we were brought into, a society of assimilating information and influence and acceptance. We believed that all that NASA has seen is all that was there, that none of the planets in our solar system are inhabitable. Some are too hot, some are too cold, some are too toxic. And now that we've got so much disclosure coming out, and some very much mainstream, as we know, there's been a lot that came out the beginning of this year, the end of last year, about programs for at least 70 plus years and in ufology with the Department of Defense and Lockheed Martin and et cetera. But we also recognize that we've assumed a lot in a lot of these redacted film footage and photos that NASA even has released, where clearly there's been some tampering, and many astronauts that have come out, particularly towards the end of their lives. Buzz Aldrin is one of those, Edgar Mitchell, that have said, yes, we saw things. We weren't allowed to talk about it, but we saw things. For our really hungry viewers, Jenessee, Raymond, pop in, whichever is feeling the most keen to this question. Just the release and the relief there is in recognizing that there is some common sense to this otherwise unhinged and almost archaic life that we have here on this planet, with all of the variant human life and the races and the agendas and the philosophies and the religions and what it is that we really are here for, and what it is that we have in our divine potential to become. Tell us where you see the correlation of what our space brothers and sisters, as you've experienced them, bring into this moment in human history to give us some direction. Either of you, take that question and run with it.
All right. Well, we're at the point in our cosmic evolution where we're just putting our big toe into the cosmic ocean. And we know from the Venus Express from the European Space Agency, from that probe, that going back 2 billion years or more, Venus had evolved paradisical conditions and beautiful oceans and so forth. And so even if the situation environmentally had deteriorated, 2 billion years is a long time for the Venusians to adapt and evolve to their situation. And what gets me a lot is that NASA's always saying that it was life as we know it, and but we'll be surprised to learn when we come into outer space just how life has adapted itself to various planetary conditions.
Yes.
Throughout the universe. Now, for Venus, 43 space probes have been sent there by 4 different nations on Earth: Russia, Japan with the Akatsuki probe, European Space Agency with the Venus Express series, and America with the Mariner and Pioneer probes. And this is more than any other planet. And if Venus was a dead, lifeless world that they want us to believe that it is, and we're the only ones in this solar system, or even in the whole universe, it just doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is at the cost of billions upon billions of dollars, or rubles, or whatever the respective currency of those countries is. Why didn't they send more of them to Mars or to the moon or Jupiter or somewhere else? But they did send them to Venus. So I do believe that there is this vast Venus conspiracy out there, and I think I pretty concisely prove it in my 3 Venus books.
Yes, and I want to remind our viewers, it's Venus Rising, Final Countdown, Rockets to Venus, and Cosmic Ray's Excellent Venus Adventure. And again, we want to remind everyone that there is the opportunity to go to this From Venus with Love conference, where we're going to have some really heavy hitters when it comes to being experiencers, direct experiencers, authors, those that have had the vision of what that evolved life and what those inhabitants look like in that Venusian realm. I want to do something we haven't done up until this point. I don't know how many people we have. Typically on a given evening, we're somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 viewers. I'm going to open up the phone lines because I think we have such fascinating experts tonight on the panel for topics that we are all really hungry for. Why are we here? what are we doing on this planet? What has been true if we've been told a lot of lies, or if our science has been antiquated, or there have been, things that have been kept from us. I'm going to open up our phone lines. I'm going to ask our callers, call in as you like with pertinent questions to these amazing guests. 919-518-9773. I'm going to say that one more time. 919-518-9773. First time ever, we're opening the phone lines. And with that, I'm going to go to Jenessee. Jenessee, I'm really following you with this idea of the need to clear our chakras, the need to step into a soul timeline where we're integrating who we are, where we're actually fired up and energized in all of our power centers, where we're open and not so caught up in our egos that we are clinging too much to this singular 3D experience, this one address that we're just happening to be occupying at this time. Talk a little bit about how the wisdom that you brought back from this amazing astral journey helped you understand the relevance of why you are here as Jenessee in this timeline, and what was an important aspect to integrate.
Yeah, so the interesting part of this is the one thing that I discovered was I want to be human. I love being human. And it took that process to really get into this and to understand why I came here and what's happening. And back to the question you had asked before and that Ray so eloquently answered, I'd like to talk to the human aspect of that and why we maybe aren't experiencing, or you said something to the effect of why some people get stuck or blocked or listen to the propaganda that's being given to them, and it also marries with this chakra concept. So what I've understood is that we have human timelines, and that's our primary timeline. We came here, and so when I say timeline, it's the birth and death cycle that I'm living as Jenessee Roy, right? I have a birth and I'm going to have a death. And so everybody has this human timeline. And so in that, we have very specific, and we set for ourselves very specific, you can call it benchmarks, right? Part of our divine lesson plan. And so why we sometimes have a harder time reaching into this cosmic timeline. And what my experience was, if you do this, if you reach into the cosmic, if you're a contactee, as Ray calls it, if you have these extraterrestrial experiences or visit these timelines outside of the human timeline, it is confusing. It's like living split personas, literally, and having to reconcile all of that information. And so for me personally, I didn't have this experience until I had completely cleared my human, which is the physical, the emotional, and the mental body. And I did that through chakra theory. And I have free workshops for people online. I have a free app called the Chakra Deck app, and it's all free. Everything in there is free. And basically, it's teaching people through meditation. I hate to say, you have to start to clear the mental field and train the brain to work in harmony, left and right brain, to be able to have these experiences. But you really have to go through the physical, right? What's happening and happening to us here in this physical body, and then the emotional and the whole span of emotions. And it's not getting stuck or staying within anger, fear, jealousy, happiness, joy, passion. It's being able to live the full expression of every single emotion and swing from the pendulum one side to the other. And this is what the Pleiadians try and teach us completely, that as humans, we have emotions, and the goal is to be fluid in those emotions, because when we get stuck and we get triggered by emotions, we're actually creating just more blips on that timeline to understand. And then the mental field, which was my hardest. And this all makes up this first triad of the human existence. We all come in with complete access to our physical, emotional, and mental body. And so as soon as you can find harmony, and I always call it this clear channel, this chakra channel, when you can just be fluid, clear, and to me, all that means is being your authentic self. When you can live and breathe your authenticity every single day, then you start to clear that channel naturally. And by doing that, then only then would I suggest you start to tap into the cosmic. And something else too, if I can keep going on, but something else too that I understand is extraterrestrials, whatever you want to call this, are multidimensional timelines, the cosmic timelines. Those beings are not allowed to impede on the human timeline. So unless you intentionally ask for the extraterrestrials, the multidimensional selves to come in and start to guide you, to work with you, you will not have that happen until you clear the human timeline, until you're a clear channel, because it really takes a grounded human to be able to, as I call it, reconcile all of these aspects of self. And I swear this is what like people by, schizophrenia, like whatever you want to call it. If you start tapping into this too early, it's confusing. So
right. I mean, that really is the understanding of dissociative disorder or multiple personality, like you said, split personality. We are so much more than this one lockbox singular experience in existence. This is where our focus is, but we are also one-dimensional, two-dimensional. We've had Dr. Eben Alexander come on the show and talk about what it was like to be in the muddy, I'm trying to remember, worm eye view, which was kind of a one or two-dimensional experience when he was unconscious and was riddled with E. coli meningitis, and for all sakes and purposes was mentally or brain dead. And what it was like to go up into higher realms and be welcomed into something that surpassed maybe fifth dimension, sixth dimension, and beyond, and go into the eye of creation. We know that there's dimensionality just in this one experience. What you're talking about is the understanding that you are never 100% exclusively Jenessee, 100% exclusively Raymond, that the infinite is possible, both as multiverses and versions of yourself as Jenessee into infinity for every choice you may or may not have made, according to quantum computing and a lot of the science that's coming out right now. But then where else does your soul incarnate and experience the vastness of and the richness of co-creation within the multiverses? So when we do that too prematurely or the veils come down, it is a shattering experience, isn't it, Jenessee? Tell our viewers how you managed to integrate that when you went through such a vast experience in one day. And I want to remind our callers, 919-518-9773, if you have any questions for Jenessee or Raymond. All right, so Jenessee, go. This is really powerful. How did you keep that integrative focus and that core grounding?
So I'd have to say the one thing that's coming through is I love that you keep calling Cosmic Ray and I experts. I would say I was not an expert, and that's probably why I was given this as part of my life purpose here as a human to bring to other humans wanting to experience or understand this aspect of themselves more fully. I knew nothing besides the fact that I knew there was multidimensionality and there was things outside of myself. I had heard of the Seven Sisters Planet and Orion, but I had never heard of any of these names for the different aliens in these different star systems or galaxies. And so I was ignorant. And I think that's how, because I'm somebody who my entire process, number one, I was primed for this. I would call myself a master meditator. I had again, I told you I cleared myself completely. I was a very clear vessel. My biggest human goal here has been trust. And so this process really made me trust. And again, I had no clue. So when I was taken to the Pleiadian planet and they were trying to show me an aquifer system to create energy with a crystal grid above the city, I had no clue what an aquifer was. I've never even heard the term of an aquifer before. And they were showing me limestone caves with bubbles seeping through the limestone with grids in the walls. And they were telling me this is what charged the city. And they were showing me. And so I took complete notes. And then I went on Google and I literally had to Google for probably 20 minutes to see what they were trying to show me. And then it starts becoming very clear that there's aquifer systems that we use here in the US that create energy. And so this for me was also, I think, a way that I had to step into trusting my divine gifts and talents through the experiences that I had. But I was a blank slate. I was a complete blank slate. And so everything that I experienced was not only for me, you're right, they never just teach me, or I'm not here just to teach other people. It's always a multifaceted teaching experience. So when I was learning so that I could help teach other people. And so it was very interesting.
That sounds like the divine order of anything. I mean, whenever you hear about some massive overcoming, it doesn't matter whether you're Tony Robbins or Oprah Winfrey or you're Jenessee Roy and Dr. Raymond Keller, we go through challenges of our own sense of identity, and it might be health, it might be financial, it might be something deep and embodied about our perception of self and identity, but it's meant to get us a little bit further down the road so we can turn around and give the gift to the next person or the next group of people, whoever's ready. You know, when you show up with a new wisdom, the teacher and the student seem to align. So it's a big gift that you've been able to give. I kind of want to direct that question now back to Raymond. Raymond, where do you see some of these pieces of wisdom, these gems coming forward by being able to access not only our space brothers, but maybe iterations of ourselves that exist there, similar to what Jenessee did? What are we meant to bring them back to better understand at this time in human history that seems so pivotal?
I think it's important that we find an integration with our past lives and experiences, not only on the Earth but other planets. Emanuel Swedenborg and others, all the great teachers throughout history, have understood that that our souls are made of an eternal substance, and that matter can neither be created nor destroyed. That there's always a transmutation, and we pass from one life to another. This is very important. Even in the Bible, we see that Jesus taught this. He explained in Matthew chapter 17 to his disciples. They were wondering who John the Baptist was, and he explained to them that he was Elijah, the prophet that had returned unto them in a new body to bring a new revelation and introduce a new age to the earth. So there's nothing really new under the sun. In my own experience, I had an operation at the Veterans Administration Hospital in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 3 years ago, a quadruple bypass surgery, the same kind of operation that President Clinton had. And while I was under, I had a dream, a vision, that I was taken up to a circle of light high above the earth. It was a ship, but it didn't have a floor that I could see. It was transparent above, and I was sitting along the ring, this glowing ring, high above the earth, and my higher self walked in and offered me a choice if I wanted to go with him and return to Venus, or come back to the Earth and finish my Venus books. And so I put so much effort into these books that I chose to come back, because this information is very important for people to have, and it justifies my existence here on the earth, my purpose of being here at this time.
You know, and that was so humbly said, Raymond. But when you think about it, it's something that we take for granted in society, isn't it? Why are we here? What is our contribution to humanity? What are we creating for ourselves that made the journey worthwhile? Why do we choose to stay? And many don't choose to stay. They don't recognize how much they have a hand in how they manage their energy and why they may leave prematurely and what may ail them. And it's all part of that integration of consciousness and that more awakened co-creative ability, that divine birthright that we each have. It sounds like Jenessee was really experiencing that kind of awakening and poignant awareness during that multidimensional and multi-identified experience. Again, 11 bodies, 12 planets, 11 bodies. I want to touch on that, Jenessee, and we got to talk about the conference as well, and what you will both be sharing and contributing, just to get our viewers excited about the contribution and potential of their going. 12 planets, 11 bodies. Can you just hit on the 12 planets and 11 bodies? Since Raymond's got a hand in this, Jenessee, I'd love to have you just kind of hit on those to give our viewers an idea of what magnitude of an experience you had with that integration.
Yes, so I was taken to 12 different planets in that one day. And basically, I mean, I had named them all just to try and keep track again, because while I was going through it, I didn't know what planet I was going to or what beings were there on that planet. I was just having experiences. And so basically, the 12 planets is where I had traveled. I had seen a version of Earth in what they called 2300, if you can even fathom that. And I had seen what I called a hell planet, which was very shamanic in style, an angelic planet, an underwater planet. I mean, I had seen just all of these planets and basically the 11 bodies. There would always be an apex of my astral travel experience where they would take me to a room where bodies were frozen in suspended animation, and it was always a bit different depending on the planet or what it looked like, how it had been done. But I was explained that each of these civilizations, these beings, had a high enough frequency that they were able to put bodies in suspended animation.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the very beginning, they showed me this first one on the Pleiadian planet, and it was a very long, drawn out experience the first time. And I had walked into this room very Star Trek-esque, you could say, with just all these different frozen bodies. And as I walked up to a tube, it was so intense. I could tell it was my body in there, but I wasn't ready to see that version of myself. And so all I was able to see was a rose at that time. Later on through each experience, I was able to see the different bodies that were my bodies that had been frozen. And then towards the end of the book, or the experience, one of the last chapters in the book, each of the, we'll call it guides, chaperones, who were facilitators to hold my frequency and to take me to this place and to show me my timeline in that place. They had come back and told me if that body was to remain frozen, or if it had reanimated. And I think all but 5 had reanimated by the completion of the book, which to me meant that all that needed to be done was for me to have conscious awareness of this experience and to get the experience of my timeline, my lifetime in that planet, to be able to bring back that wisdom. And then the 5 planets that the kind of cities, the adventures I had told you I had gone on afterwards, still had more work that I had to do as a human before I could reconcile those timelines. And at the end of the book, the one soul, so basically the entire completion of this journey for me was to then go on the different trips, grid the earth here, and do more work with each of those timelines. And then once I had done all that work around 2017, I think that was the solar eclipse, right around that big solar eclipse in August, I had a full reconciliation of all timelines. And to me, that means that now I'm living. There's no such thing as time space, right? Everything is coexisting in this one breath, this one moment. And so for me, I am the totality now. I carry the totality of all of my lifetimes, right? So I carry kind of the rainbow bridge wherever I go. I can access all of the Akashic, if you want to call this, the layers of wisdom of all of those experiences, and I can tap into that and that energy no matter where I am and what I need to be doing. But basically, my goal was to be human and to just love being human, because this is what it's about, right? If we believe there's no such thing as time space, that everything's just happening in this moment, like this is consciousness.
That is such a powerful statement, because we have a lot of potential evacuees that are ready to jump ship on this dense rock. I know that I felt that way many times. You wake up and you look around and you go, everything's a sham. Everything's a lie. What am I doing on it? I'm on the dummy planet. I got stuck here. But it didn't occur to us until we really get conscious that there are reasons why we chose this time in this timeline, and those that we have brought in as friends and family and coworkers, and certainly those that we live out our passions and our purpose with. So I want to direct, Jenessee, our viewers to your work, this 7-week chakra journey, and your books. Can you give us a website where we can direct them so that they can get a little bit more of this wisdom for themselves?
Yeah, so you can use my name. I think it's been showing here the whole time. So Jenessee.com will take you there, or the longer version, Chakras Root to Crown, will take you there to the same website. And then I have an app. Again, it's free. It's called Chakra Deck. And in that app, you can access workshops, classes. There's hundreds of meditations. There's spiritual articles. It's everything you could want if you were going to go through this journey with a chakras bird eye view. Yes. And my purpose is to really teach people to love the emotional body and to clear. This is the Pleiadian part of me. I have tons of timelines in the Pleiadian system. And so the Pleiadians are all about being and feeling and connecting. The energy body, the emotional body, is that which really connects us to all these other individual consciousnesses on the grid, on the matrix that you talked about earlier, the spider web that we're all connected to. And so that emotional body, when it can be clear, we can just have euphoric experiences. Even when we're hitting the highs and the lows, we can just swim through this consciousness together. And so that's my purpose and that's my path. So I really like to teach people how to clear themselves and find that authentic quality. And you can do that through the 7-week chakra journey. I warn you, it's intense. If you're going to start it, your life will flip upside down. You'll probably, quit a few times because it's very intense, but it's well worth it.
Well, if we could jump through 12 different planets and 11 bodies and maintain our sanity as you have, Jenessee, there could not be a better example and advocate of that powerful work. Thank you. And we know this is going to be along the same timelines and the topics that you're going to be sharing at the Mount Shasta conference from Venus with Love the last weekend of July, correct?
Yes.
Very exciting. I want to just mention the website for that. The Promise Revealed. I believe it is actually on that front homepage for all those that are interested in attending this conference. We've had several guests so far. Jenessee Roy is another one of them. This is fascinating. The 7-week chakra journey, Jenessee. Thank you. I'm going to be taking a look at that too. And Raymond, let's just kind of bring you back. I know that you are one of the many experts on Venusian history and mythology and their own soul's evolution. What is the biggest message that you're going to be touching upon at this upcoming conference that is relevant to what we're all experiencing right now as a major transitional evolutionary time in human history?
The Venusians haven't forgotten us. They realize that we're their intimate brothers and sisters, that we inhabit the closest populated sphere to their own world. They've been interacting with us, living and working among us for thousands of years, and they really care. They really care, and they're concerned about our cosmic evolution as much as their own. And in all of my books, my first book, Venus Rising: A Concise History of the Second Planet, I present the biographies of various Venusians uh, living on the earth and their messages for us in these late days. And my second book is uh, The Final Countdown, Rockets to Venus. All these books are available on Amazon, and they won international awards at the London and Southern California Book Festival. This one deals with the attempts of various powers on Earth to contact the Venusians in various ways and smash it through the Venus conspiracy, and brings the facts to light
Yeah.
about what's really going on our neighbor world. And then my third and last book in the Venus trilogy is Cosmic Ray's Excellent Venus Adventure, and this deals with my encounters with Lady Ankara, i.e., Annalise Guerin and Dolores Barrios, and many other Venusians that have been carrying out important work here for the benefit of all humankind.
And I know from having perused and done some deep research into your books, and I'm a big reader. I mean, at times in my life, raising children, I'm 2 a.m. nursing an infant, and I'm 7, 8 books deep. So I think I've got a pretty adequate background to be able to say this. Some of the best notations I've ever seen, the most deeply researched and well-accredited notations exist in your writing, Raymond. So you do a lot to bring all of the beautiful fine points of relevance into tying a story together and being able to build a context for the reader to feel, pretty firmly grounded in what you are bringing to light, and some of the history that starts to speak its own story when you really begin to read all of the correlating facts that you have. And so I really encourage our viewers to go and take a look at that. Let's kind of sum up with, we've got so much going on right now that makes the world look wonky. We're having crazy weather patterns. We've got all kinds of natural disasters that have been going on, from freak hurricanes to, Kilauea and the Big Island of Hawaii. We just found out we've got another electromagnetic magnetosphere around the Earth. We're experiencing what looks like displacement. We're having solar flares and geostorms. In your vast experience, Raymond, Jenessee, going and seeing through the eyes of other iterations of yourself or brothers and sisters that maybe have a much clearer understanding, let's take the fear down a little bit, but let's go into the inquiry. What's happening right now? What can you tell us that will really feed our viewers a sense of clarity about next steps for themselves going forward?
Yes, this is a time of great transition, literally. Of course, within the past 100 years, we've made great advances in science and technology, entering the space age, the atomic age. We're dealing with the vast powers of the universe, but we haven't developed our spiritual maturity as yet to properly understand and use these vast powers. So collectively as a society, and then individually, dealing with and confronting uh, new issues brought by technology and change will be very important for all of humankind. And the Venusians and other advanced beings from outer space are here to help us over the speed bumps, so to speak.
And they are some hell of a large speed bumps, aren't they, Raymond? And
They can be quite formidable.
no small growing pains on this one. So Jenessee has got some great tools to being able to develop that spiritual prowess. Jenessee, what would you say to our viewers about what's coming at us and how best to prepare?
I'd say it's microcosm to macro, right? So I think the outside world is really just reflecting the inside world, and everybody's got to have a dark night of the soul to really have that spiritual emergency, the emerging of that which is going to take us further. And so, it sometimes gets scary when there's so much shrouding kind of what's going on for us. But I think really just externally, it's reflecting what a lot of people are trying to shift and move through internally. And so save one person, save the world. So save yourself, find the light within you. And to me, it's always back to chakra theory. So when everything's shifting and breaking down and everything around you seems like it's kind of dissolving and there's chaos, right? So that takes us back down to the root chakra, which is foundational. And so the only way to repair and grow in the next light is to have trust. And so we're a birthing planet. Earth is a birthing planet. It's not going to die. It can't die. And so you have to just trust that everything that's shifting for you right now is shifting for a reason, and stick to that authentic light. Find those 3 qualities within you that are you're dying authentically, the things that just make you, and live to that. And everything else will just shed away. All the darkness will shed away, and you'll see it reflected in your outside world.
Wow. That was gorgeous. It makes you not want to quit and look again through much cleaner eyes at the beauty of this planet, and not only the challenges of what it's going through, but how we can each be contributing by embodying as deeply as you've just said, Jenessee. That was gorgeous. Thank you for that. I want to thank you, Jenessee, for joining us. I don't know how an hour flew by that quickly. And Dr. Raymond Keller, it was just far too soon. I would love to continue to do panels all the way through the conference, because I think we've got such an amazing array of experts with experience. We're not just talking about mythology. We're not just talking about historians. We're not talking about artists and writers and pontificators. We've got true experiencers that are feeling and deeply breathing and living and integrating into these multidimensional realities, and beings that are also affording us a glimpse into what a multidimensional reality would be. So I want to thank both of you for joining us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a great honor to be part of the Solutionary TV.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Raymond. And Jenessee, we're looking forward to hearing both of you speak. Is there another website other than The Promise Revealed that you can tell our viewers that they can be taking a look at, so they could be getting tickets to come and hear you speak at Mount Shasta that last weekend in July?
Just The Promise Revealed .com. It's all one word. Just type it out as one word in the bar across the top, or just type in Rob Potter Venus.
Yeah.
It should come up.
Yeah, we leave it to Google. We can always count on that. So we're excited to hear both of you speak. And I just want to get back to our viewers. Listen, we're bringing you the content that you're interested in. We do have solutions to everything that's plaguing society. As Jenessee said, this is a microcosm that is being expressed at a macrocosmic level, where we are broken and disenfranchised with ourselves and blind to our own shadow and our own darkness, our own fragmented selves that we don't want to look at. This is what society is experiencing, whether you're dealing with the Palestinians and the Israeli over in Jerusalem today, or whether you're just an arguing couple, or you're just at war with yourself. This is really about the beautiful integration that is the embodiment of who we are. We are bringing you content that you can't find in the mainstream. Please support Solutionary TV by going to solutionarytv.com. Be a patron, be a sponsor, so that we can continue on the air and correlate with other amazing work going on out there. And I, again, just want to thank and release our wonderful experts for having joined us tonight, and remind each of you, you have more power than you ever know. You are always more than what you've been told. And together, we're the solution.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, streaminggear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.